Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Belgian Presidency Conference on Research Infrastructure. We have half a day here, and then in the afternoon there are also some field visits for you, which normally you have registered before the conference or yesterday if you hadn't done so already. Yesterday we established, thanks to some remarks here, that you don't believe in science, but you know that science is true, correct? It's difficult, eh? So it's not believe, okay. But what I know from science, that it comes through experimentation, correct? You agree with that? So if you would indulge me in joining a small experiment, you'll need a partner for that. So find somebody next to you, or maybe behind you or in front of you, and sit really next to them. So make sure you're close. And you are going to do a small competition with each other. Do you know the concept of thumb wrestling? Yes? So you both grab the hand like this into each other, and then you do 1, 2, 3, and you try and put the thumb of the other person down. Yeah? I'm going to give you a minute, and you need to score as many points as possible. Yes? So get ready. Turn to your neighbor. Grab the thumb. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Ready, set, go. As many points as possible, as many points. Give it another go. I mentioned it. And stop. So, raise your hand if you scored more than 1 point. Some people, okay? Raise your hand if you scored more than 5 points. Not so many. Somebody more than 10 points? Okay, nobody. That's strange. Now, yesterday, you were talking all day about collaboration, right? Yeah? So what was my instruction? Do you remember? What was the goal of this exercise? Score as many points as possible. I didn't say that it had to go at the expense of the other. So let's do that one more time. With the same logic, collaboration logic, score as many points as possible. And I give you 30 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, stop. Raise your hand. Who of you scored more than 10 points? Okay. So keep in mind, you cannot compete externally if you cannot collaborate internally. And we often mistake that. We think we need to be competitive internally, and actually that blocks us from being competitive externally. So every time you see that in your own organizations or in between partners, keep in mind the thumb wrestling organization. You cannot compete externally if you cannot collaborate internally. With that being said, we start with our program for today. And we have a first block before the break, and it will be all about how to broaden or how to get a broad research infrastructure ecosystem. And as yesterday, we always have a moderator for a particular block. And for this one, it's Professor José Luis Martinez, and he's the ESFRI chair.
Well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure, and I would like to thank the Belgian presidency for the preparation of this event, this Research Infrastructure Conference. So to me, it's a pleasure. Just today, in the second day, we speak quite a lot about ESFRI. So today, at least in the morning, we'll have some small pills about what is the ESFRI work. And today, you have a very fantastic occasion that will be the premiere, the presentation of one of the work has been done in the last 2 years, who is really quite intense, is the landscape analysis. So that you will be really the first one to really have a presentation of the full document of the landscape analysis. So in this session, which is really called the Broad of the Research Infrastructure Ecosystem, we will have 3 presentations, and later on we have a debate in the panel. The 3 presentations, we will start with a setting of the scene by myself, and later the 3 presentations will be the first one, the second one, about the landscape analysis, who will be presented by Gelsomina Papalardo, who I asked her to come to the scene. And she is working as a vice chair of the ESFRI, and she has very long experience in the ESFRI work for a few years. And she will present the landscape analysis 2024. After that, we will have 2 presentations about the complementary things to the European landscape analysis, ESFRI 2024, that there are 2 national landscape presentations. One will be the presentation from Jelena Ilic-Drebren from the, well, it's very long, but the Ministry of Science, Education and Youth of Croatia. So I ask also to come to the scene. And that will be a presentation about the National Roadmap on Research Infrastructure Landscape in Croatia. And the last presentation will be in the same spirit, the presentation of the landscape analysis in the National Research Infrastructure in France, that will be presented by Elena Hofer, that she is also a vice chair of the ESFRI, so also she has quite a significant experience in the ESFRI work, in the ESFRI procedure, about the landscape analysis and the other things. So later on, we will change some people, and the debate on the panel will be also with some complementary people, because otherwise will be maybe too much ESFRI dose, will be an overdose of ESFRI people, and we try to dilute. So I think I have to start with the presentation of the setting of the scene. So I will try in this presentation to give you a flavor, and I hope I will be able to follow the timeline, that is already 10 minutes delay, about the scene of the work of the ESFRI, what is we are doing, and what is the perspective, I will say, for the next, let's say, 2 years in ESFRI. So just to give you a very quick flavor, what is really the motto, what we want to achieve with ESFRI. ESFRI, I will explain later, but our aim is to be able to incite the member state and the Commission to equip Europe with the infrastructure of research infrastructure would be the groundbreak of research, I would say research of excellence. This is really the aim of the ESFRI as an organization. If I can really explain a little more, so ESFRI is a research infrastructure, a strategy forum for research infrastructures, and is a place where really we discuss the strategy of the different, and we can try to align the strategy of the different member states, associated countries, and Commission in order to achieve this goal to have the best possible research infrastructure who are really in the cutting edge of the technology and the knowledge. Was established in 2002 by a decision of the so at that moment was the Competitiveness Council, so it's the Council of Ministers of this responsibility in the different member states. And I said it's a platform about thinking about the possibility to have more research infrastructure in the future and to, of course, to be sustainable and to increase. But I will say it immediately, something I said immediately. ESFRI has no money. So we don't have budget. We work all, let's say, pro bono, and doesn't matter that the people knock our door in order to try to finance a research infrastructure. We don't have budget. So it's really about a strategy, about decision, about long-term commitment. And I would say, if I make a summary of that in a picture way, so we have the member state who are really providing most of the money for the research infrastructure. Is the decision, the different research infrastructure are created in the called variable geometry, that different countries participate in different research infrastructure, but not all the research infrastructure belongs to or participate by all countries in the European Union and the associated countries. We have the European Commission also, and ESFRI try to be in the middle in order that this machine works as better as possible. Try to, let's say, with the member state, try to align the priorities. Also, the Commission try to align his own priorities and also the so-called, for instance, structural funds. And all together, because our aim, I said before and was in the first slide, is to have the best possible ecosystem or European research infrastructure of the cutting-edge quality technology and to achieve the excellence in research. However, this is difficult, I will tell you, even for the strategy, because we have to align very, very different timelines. For a typical user, I would say, of one research infrastructure, especially, we say, the single site, but they are interested in something which is running in the next 4 years, because I'm responsible for one thesis. I want that my thesis is finished. For me, the scope of the one research infrastructure is 4 years. For the manager of the research infrastructure, I have been also for 5 years, while you are really responsible more or less for your mandate and maybe for the next mandate. But okay, 10 years is really quite a lot. But however, the research infrastructure, they are really commitment and decision that we engage all the people, and people mean member state, associate country, and commission, for 40 to 50 years. So this is really difficult to have a vision of what will happen in 50 years. This is about the strategic decision. And I think I have very nice sentences I always like for Niels Bohr, that make prediction is very difficult, but really make prediction about the future, poof, this is even more. So after that, what is really the main task we are doing in ESFRI today, and for the, first I would say is a collaboration between national government, European Commission, and we have this strategic approach, but we are doing mostly 3 things, and that's really our core business. Later we have also very important things, but we said we have 3, our core business are 3 elements. Is the analysis of the landscape that will be presented today, the new one, monitoring of the research infrastructure performance, the monitoring of the performance of the research infrastructure, in particular the so-called landmarks, and also the third one that we will do probably in the periodicity around 4 years is about the new roadmap to identify things that could enter into the roadmap and to make an update of the roadmap, which is really the future that we are really expecting or we would like to see in Europe in the topic of the research infrastructure for the future. So on top of that, we have different working groups who are really making very good job in very particular issues that mostly is coming from demands, requests, coming from the Competitive Council or elements like that. And we have now a working group just finishing a report about the founding of research infrastructure. Actually, it will be discussed tomorrow in the forum of ESFRI. We have also a drafting group on internationalization, which I think is really very important for research infrastructure. We have also a working group to draft a report about the greening of research infrastructure. And we have the commitment in our mandate in the ESFRI to engage as much as possible with the stakeholder, not only with the member state and commission, but also the stakeholder of the research infrastructure. For us, it's very important that we don't want to be considered like someone who is looking for new and really enlarge and to improve the research infrastructure, but we don't want to discuss with the research infrastructure. I think it's a completely mistake. We want to integrate as much as possible the research infrastructure in our pipeline of work. Well, landscape analysis, I will not make any comment because I want to give the floor to Gelsomina Papalardo, who really, she worked quite hard in the last 2 years with many people, but really she took the lead and she will present the results with really for us, I hope that you also, it's a great moment just to present the work. It's just the crystallization of the work of at least 2 years, and was quite strong work. And by the way, it will be available in the web and in paper. I will give you a flower that the next step that we are in the pipeline is to call for a new roadmap, the update of the roadmap. Actually, we will start the ceremony or the event of the Info Day, the 8th of October in a Madhu Plus here nearby, and that will be the launching of the roadmap. That will be in October, 8th of October 2024, and this is the idea to ask for during 6 months until more or less the 8th of April, the scientists could really think about presentation of new projects that they think that could be research infrastructure in the spirit of ESFRI, so the pan-European character and high quality, excellent science and so on. That will be 6 months to present the project. And later we have here this workflow about how we deal with the process, in that we have to do the evaluation of the scientific excellence, evaluation of the pan-European character, evaluation all the other things related with the impact assessment, with the governance, with the finance proposition. And all this work, we hope that will be finished, let's say, in the last semester of 2026, that at that moment will be presented officially the new roadmap 2026. Just to give you, I cannot really make a commitment, it's only an idea. The time to the next one, the after one, will be probably at least 4 years. So that we are now entering a period that is not possible anymore, and probably not logic to try to have one roadmap and one landscape analysis every 2 years. We are in the process to go to the process to mostly 4 years. The third part, which is really very important, and I think is coherent with this, we have the new landscape, we have the proposition on new project, the roadmap update. In the middle, we have the monitoring of the existing research infrastructure in Europe. This is also a very important exercise. And also, I forgot in the previous slide that really will be not only the moment to present new project, but will be the moment also to evaluate the project who has been introduced into the roadmap in 2016, because they will arrive to the 10-year period, and we have a rule inside ESFRI that after 10 years, one project should be implemented, if not, should go out from the roadmap. So that will be the presentation of a new roadmap, and will be the decision of the project of 2016, has been approved in 2016, to really become a landmark or to go out of the process. And I said before also, the monitoring is very important. We monitored, actually, we have in a process to evaluate the 30 landmarks. We divided in 3 batches. The first one is done. The second one will be almost finished in a few days. And the third one will start now in order to arrive to the end of the year with the evaluation and the monitoring of, not the evaluation, but the monitoring of the 30 landmarks. And I would say the priorities, I would say for 24, 25, it's already, I almost explained everything, the landscape, the new roadmap, but we also need to integrate and better position our strategic positioning of research infrastructure inside the era. This is also very important. And also I would say that there's very broad range of the stakeholder. And to do that, in order to how we position ourselves with ERA, well, we propose to the ERA Forum and the ERA Council to have a few elements to be developed during 25-27, and that our proposition will be divided in 2 parts. Some things, a few elements who are really recurrent, so will be constant, and really we consider that like our cost business, in the sense that it already says about the road mapping, the monitoring, the stakeholder engagement. And we have also, we propose, and maybe will be approved by the ERA Council, we have short-term task, and that means that it's starting in a given moment and will finish with the delivery of one report or one reflection about that, and that's it. But it's really in the short term. But we keep constant the other activity who, for us, will run 1 year to the next and will be rolling up, let's say, more or less constantly, sometimes with a periodicity of 4 years, but constantly in the time. Well, I only have one more slide because it's already on time and we are ready for the next people. And we are working in this internationalization of the research infrastructure, who I think is something very much to be considered for the future, very important. Of course, it's very important, all the elements about the excellence of the research infrastructure, the greening character, and try to develop the best science as possible. But this kind of internationalization of research infrastructure, I think is a card, can be played by the research infrastructure who will have some very interesting added value for all of the system, and for Europe, I would say, in general. So we are now trying to analyze how really we can improve the internationalization of research infrastructure, following different lines. Of course, one line that could be, let's say, in principle, simple, I would say, nothing is simple, but will be something to share more the data in the EOS spirit, but will the EOS implemented at much larger scale, let's say maybe with United States, Japan, Korea. There are also quite a lot of discussion inside of the possibilities of some of the research infrastructure are very international in his own character, in the sense that maybe the headquarters is in Europe, but really even, for instance, typically for telescope or radio telescope, the different antenna or telescope are in different countries around America, Asia, or Africa, or Australia, Oceania. And that is much easier to try to internationalize that. And we have the different also international forum, like OECD, who is really very active in this global science forum, and also the G7 about this group is called Group of Senior Officers. We have the ICRI conference in Brisbane by the end of the year, and there we want to work together and to elaborate more this character of internationalization of research infrastructure that I think that could also add added value of the research infrastructure in Europe. And that's it. So I will propose that now we go step by step to the European landscape, to national landscape, and later we go to the panel discussion. Thank you very much. So now I really have the pleasure to present you again Gelsomina Papalardo, and that will be really the presentation, the first presentation of the F3 Landscape Analysis 2024.
Thanks, José Luis. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to the Belgian presidency for organizing this conference and for inviting me to give this talk. José Luis has already set the scene and prepared the audience for a great presentation. Okay, this will be only 15 minutes presentation, but my announcement is that we did it. There is the executive summary here in the booth outside. If you have not taken it, please take it. And the landscape analysis 2024 is online now, so you can have a look to the website. I think this is okay. So, José Luis mentioned already all the activities that we do in S3, and one of the most known is for sure the roadmap. And since 2016, we introduced the landscape analysis report in our roadmap. So we had the first landscape analysis in 2016, in the roadmap 2016, then the second edition in 2018, and then in 2021. Now we are presenting the S3 landscape analysis 2024, which is new. I mean, there are important novelties here. First of all, it's the first time that we prepare the landscape analysis decoupled from the roadmap. And this was a strategic idea we discussed a lot within S3 in order to have more time to devote to the preparation of the landscape analysis and not doing the two things together, and also to provide the framework and the basis for the next roadmap. So this landscape analysis will be the basis for the next roadmap. It includes also the first version, the first edition of the S3 RISE portfolio, which is an online tool where you can get online all the information regarding S3 research infrastructures. It's more like a bit of evolution with respect to the initial cards that we had in the previous roadmaps. But the idea is to have more information regarding, for example, impact and access modes, but also to provide a more regular update of the information that you can find on the web. And then I would say one of the most important aspects for this landscape analysis report is that was prepared by using, really opening the doors to the external world. We asked contributions and input to all the main stakeholders, including ARISE, clusters projects, and large umbrella organizations. Yeah, it works. So we received really many input, so I would like to thank all the people who contributed to that. We received input from many research infrastructures, not only ESFRI, from the clusters, which are well organized in a specific scientific domain. Large umbrella organizations, if you are curious, you will find some 15 input published already on the website. And also we got input from other stakeholders. These were received through the preparation of specific questionnaires, surveys, and so on. So it was a quite huge work for us to collect all this information, but also for the people who contributed. And then we had this, we established this drafting group for the landscape analysis, plus we had all the strategy working groups deeply involved, plus the use of external experts for make this analysis. So more or less we had something like 60 people working directly on the analysis and the preparation and the writing of the proposal. But if we consider all the S3 forum with the suggestions, comments, and so on, and plus the input that we received from the external world, I would say, from the stakeholders, we had more than 200 people involved in total. So it was a first experience how to start to use what we have as also in suggestions from the council to be more engaged with the stakeholders, and what we are also doing through the stakeholder forum meetings is to collect more information, to be more active in order to get these needs and try to develop the policies and our strategies basis on these needs. I have to say that it is not perfect, can be always be done better, but for sure it was the first time that we decided, we reflected on the analysis based on external input collected in a coordinated way, and we will continue in this way for the future. So we can always improve it, and if you have suggestions, we are open to that. The report is based on two main sections. The first, as usual, is specific for each of the scientific domain, from digit, energy, environment, health and food, physical science and engineering, and social science and humanities, where there is the description of the current status, but also more description on the services which are offered, the potential impact and trends and needs, which have been identified for each specific domain. And from each specific domain is also seen, described the view of cross-disciplinarity, so links with other domains. And then section 2 offers instead a broader view across all the different domains, in particular giving some more in-depth descriptions about the opportunities and the trends and what we really can be the near future, and also something on the mid-long term. So I will present briefly the section 1 for each of the domain. Of course, I mean, there are many things that I cannot say here in 15 minutes, so I will invite you to read the report. For the digit part, we had one landmark and 3 projects, and there were already identified specific critical areas where some efforts is needed, like competence development to improve synergy collaboration between Euro HPC and EOS, software development and scaling, sustainability and green transition, which is particularly important for the ICT part, and quality and usability of data. Data are becoming at the core for all the research infrastructures. Then we move to energy, where we have 3 landmarks and 2 projects. Here we know how much pressure we have as a society with respect to energy consumptions, energy needs, and what the ARISE can do in this field is really to support innovative research that can be important for relevant areas that includes energy production, energy transmission, energy storage, and of course energy use. For environmental domain, we have, I cannot see the numbers yet, I don't remember, because there is the clock here that you cannot see, but it's the, okay, 8 landmarks and 3 projects. And you will see here that all the environmental research infrastructures are reported in green, and you will see also in the figures the link with other research infrastructures which are from the health and food, the orange one, plus some others from the energy domain. It's important to underline here that in the environmental domain, ARISE serve research for improvement of knowledge for the processes to understand better all the environmental processes, but at the same time they also are important for providing applied services, which are important also for policy development and policy implementation. For the health and food domain, we have 12 landmarks plus 4 projects. Thanks. You see here also all the research infrastructures in the plot are split between the health part and the food part, and you will see also the link, close link with the environmental domain. There are many research infrastructures for the environmental domain which are linked to this. The role of the health and food research infrastructures have a very relevant role in many global challenges which are related, for example, to to complex disease, pandemics, epidemics, to the how to make more affordable the entire healthcare system, the resilience and sustainability of the entire agri-food chain, and also about the food and nutrition security and safety, which is very important, in particular in light of shocks. And we know now that in this period, I mean, can happen. We know that can happen. Then we move to physical science and engineering, where we have the landscape analysis divided in 3 parts. The first is for astronomy and astroparticle physics. Then we have the part for particle and nuclear physics, and then the part for the analytical physics. Here in this domain, there was a lot of effort was done to try to connect all the existing S3 research infrastructures together with other national or international research infrastructures, and also with relevant networks which are very important in the field. Here we can say that in this domain, Europe is really at the forefront of research with the world-leading research infrastructures. The issue is really how to support how to maintain this level. And then we have the last domain, which is the social science and humanities. This ARISE in this field, they cover a very wide range of discipline, and usually the social science research infrastructures, they don't have big budget compared to other domains, if I can say like that. But now, what is the critical point that was highlighted here in this section is that Now the level of funding becomes critical in this domain because there are new needs which are related to the new technological development. For example, the needs to use very large data models and also to have access to high-performance computing, which is something that is very important in this domain. It's relatively new. And then we have the section 2, where, as I said, it provides a broad overview of all the domains, and is mainly focused on the description not only of the current status, but with the light to see what is more important for the future. And there are specific aspects which are dealt a bit more in details. That some of those were also mentioned yesterday, so it seems that those are really relevant for the entire ARISE ecosystem. First of all is the artificial intelligence that's seen as a revolution, promoting a lot, very important for promoting cross-domains research. Digitalization in general as a new pulse for research infrastructures, the need to align the funding at a different level, European, national, and regional, try to find a proper balance between basic and applied research. Both are important, and the need to foster collaborative service model towards more interdisciplinarity. And also the problem that we always have, and this is why it's one of the things that we collected from all the stakeholders, the importance of the sustainability of long-term funding for ensuring the continuity. So just to conclude, I would like to say that the landscape analysis 2024 reflects a dynamic and responsive approach to the needs of the European research ecosystem. It's not fixed, it's a dynamic process, and we need to really reflect and how to try to find strategic solutions and try to respond to these needs. And ESFRI has now produced this landscape analysis. It was a work of 2 years, or probably a bit more of 2 years, and we need to reflect now, also during the preparation of the next roadmap, about how to make this, to try to answer to these questions. And just last slide, that I mentioned the ARISE portfolio. It's an online tool. You will find it on the web. There will be not printed copy, and this will be updated more regularly. And you can find the landscape analysis report and the ARISE portfolio on the web, and those are the links. And thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, because really it was a big effort in the last period of 2 years. So next, we'll now change a little the other side of the coin, or complementary part, will be the presentation of the landscape analysis related with the Make It for Research Infrastructure in Croatia. It will be presented by Jelena Ilić-Dreven. So please, you have the floor.
So hello, my name is Jelena Ilić-Dreven. I've been working in the Ministry for Science and Education, and I've been in charge of producing the new roadmap of Croatia, and I will just give you a brief overview. So we are the youngest member state and the newest addition to the EU family. We are a part of the family since 2013. But we have been working for some time on our application, and since 2012 we had a national designated body for research infrastructures, And the key role of roadmaps in Croatia or national plans is the support for the realization of goals and of the key strategic documents that were published nationally or at the EU level. So the first roadmap in Croatia was published in 2014. It was updated in 2016, and the new one was published in 2023. It was published amidst a plethora of research connected documents. So we published National Development Strategy, National Recovery and Resilience Plan is connected to that. We published 3 new acts that are important for higher education and scientific activity. We have a new plan for fostering mobility of researchers, S3 strategy. We are in the midst of applying our accession to OECD, and we signed program funding agreements with the research institutes and are in the process of signing it with higher education institutions. So the Strategic Committee for Research Infrastructure, as I said, we have it since 2012. It is made out of prominent and independent experts in different fields of science. The current one has 15 experts from different fields of science, and they counsel the Ministry of Science, Education, and from recently Youth on different issues related to research infrastructures. You can see their main roles are assistance with national roadmap, recommendations and guidelines for the development of national research infrastructure. They evaluate new requests for joining international organizations or research infrastructures, and they counsel the Croatian S3 delegates. Those are some of their roles. They have more of them, but these are the key ones. So we published the new roadmap in June, and it is available on our website in English also. It provides an overview of existing research infrastructures in Croatia, ERICS and other infrastructure we participate in. It gives an overview of international research organizations we participate in, and it provides monitoring criteria and basic criteria for selection and financing of future ARIs. And it was open to public consultations for 30 days, and we got feedback from the stakeholders and everybody that wanted to join and put their comments and thoughts about it. We plan on updating it in 2025. So this is a quick overview of the table of contents. And the main areas of focus of our roadmap are health, environment and food, energy and traffic, digitalization and space, and society for future. We're trying to align it with the existing landscape and with the S3 recommendations. We participate in 19 international research infrastructures and organizations, and we singled out 21 national research infrastructures. And the vision for the roadmap is that through the use of national and international research infrastructure, Croatia will excel in internationally competitive research and strengthen international cooperation and visibility of Croatian science, economy, and society as a whole. So for that reason, we have 2 main priorities. The first one is to develop research infrastructure in such a way as to enable their long-term sustainability and to maximize their contribution to national research and innovation system. And for that reason, when establishing new research infrastructure, we will take into account the number of potential users of that research infrastructures, identified gaps in specific fields, their contribution to sustainable development goals, cost-benefit analysis of the planned investment. Of course, they will have to be top quality, so to ensure excellence. They will have to work on their visibility, and they will try to engage more with the business sector and industry and establish long-lasting links. And last but not least, they will have to have as small ecological footprint as possible, because we can see that sustainability is key topic in the last few years, and with the energetics prices rising, it is a key for us. The next priority is, of course, open access and cooperation with the other stakeholders. We are a small country, so cooperation is key for us. It will be, for that reason, they will have to be based on fair principles. They will have to have developed data management plans that will be publicly available. They will also have to have a catalog of services that will be available to potential users online, and it will be easily available and understandable. They will have to update their list of equipment that will be published in the Croatian Research Information System that was also recently put up. They will have to keep networking, because for a small country it is really important to us. And they will have to have a website both in Croatian and in English to enhance cooperation. So the horizontal principles that they should follow are, of course, to promote the use of fair principles when managing data, and provide open and transparent access to the infrastructure. They will have to work on strengthening international cooperation and visibility of Croatian scientists, as is mentioned in the vision for the roadmap. They will have to foster excellence in science and consolidate the national research community, because we also have a lot of some overlaps and a lot of work to do in communication. They will have to focus on sustainable development, circular economy, bioeconomy, and of course, equity and equal opportunities. So this is a quick overview of the international research infrastructure and organization. In health, we have two organizations that we participate in. In environment and food, we have 4, energy and transport also 4, digitalization and space 3, and society for future 6. And for the national infrastructure, we have 3 in health, environment and food, we have 5, in energy and transport 8, and digitalization and space 5. So here you can see the darker blue one is Croatian membership in S3 infrastructure and landmarks, and you can, in the lighter blue, you can see the actual number as of the last roadmap that was published. So the process of joining international RIs was a bit updated, because it used to be first come, first serve, because we are still a pretty new member, and we jumped on every opportunity that was provided to us. But now, as you are well aware, we need to have some kind of decision-making process, because we finance everything still from the state budget, so it is a bit difficult to manage. So the interested public institution needs to express its interest to the ministry, and then we consult the Strategic Committee on Research Infrastructure. They have a short presentation of about 5 minutes, just to keep focus on cost-benefit analysis and the things that I mentioned beforehand. And then the ministry makes the final decision, taking into account the opinion of course, the strategic committee, but taking into account the available funding, potential overlapping, overall development of the science and innovation system in Croatia. Some of the selection criteria are cost-benefit takes into account number of potential users. Because we are a small country, we have to have a bigger base of and better connect institutions that could use the new research infrastructure or international organization, identified gaps in certain areas at the national level, relevance of the infrastructure to the national development goals and priorities, and uniqueness at the national level. So we are currently establishing monitoring and updating. It was in a free format until now, written and financial, but now it will be a bit more structured with regular and effective collection of all relevant data. The monitoring will increase the visibility of research infrastructure. It will enable us the timely identification of problems, and then we could introduce corrective measures and informed strategic planning and evidence-based public policy making, of course, and the evaluation of the public investment that we made. So since we published the national roadmap, we had a few new RIs. It was the EPOS-ERIC STA that is trying to become an ERIC, and also EHRI that is on its way to become an ERIC. So a short overview, we participate in 8 ERICs. I know it's not a lot for some countries, but for Croatia, it's a nice number. We participate in 4 other projects and or landmarks that you can see here. And we are members of 9 international organizations such as ESA, CERN, and EMBL that we could see yesterday, and some other. So just to take a quick overview also of our Horizon Europe participation, because it is closely connected. So in Horizon 2020, it had the highest success rate of every area in Horizon. And for Horizon Europe, the trend is continuing. We have the highest success rate of 67%. And that is mostly due to our participation in ERICS, but also it is a pretty interesting topic in Croatia. It is mostly in InfraDev, and 64% of it is RIA actions, and you can see the amount here. So that is everything, and thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm open.
Thank you very much. So we continue now with the information about research infrastructure landscape in France that will be presented by Elena Hofer. She is working for the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation in Paris, but she's also vice chair of ESFRI, where we collaborate quite a lot. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, José Luis, and thank you for giving me the chance to present to you our French approach in constructing a national roadmap on research infrastructures. So I will put my glasses because I don't see anything. And okay, I will present to you our national process, also in articulation with the European approach. And I will start with this slide where I can say that actually France is supporting the development of European research infrastructures and structuring of European landscape of research infrastructures since more than 60 years, because we were the founding member states of the main European international scientific organizations, which were constructed in the 70s of the last century, such examples as CERN, EMBL, or ESO. So we are strongly supporting this European movement and all the European developments, and we are actually also actively supporting ESFRI developments since its creation in 2002. And you all know the numbers of the last ESFRI roadmap 2021, which includes 63 research infrastructures, including 41 landmarks and 22 projects. And actually, France is a member of 46 research infrastructures out of 63 on ESFRI roadmap. So you see that the percentage is really very, very high. We are contributing actively to the development of these research infrastructures. And if you look only at landmarks, which are 48 on ESFRI landscape of research infrastructures roadmap, we are participating to 37 landmarks, which is actually 90% of landmarks. So for us, as you can imagine, it's not only the number, but it's also an important financial contribution, because you all know it's not something new. It costs a lot of money, so we are investing in research infrastructures, but we are also thinking about prioritization, about our priorities, because in the approach to research infrastructures, we remember that this is something which we construct for many years. It's like a big ocean liner. You need to put a lot of money in the beginning, in the construction phase. You need also to support this big construction during many, many years. And then you also have to think about the end of this research infrastructure, maybe reorientation of research infrastructure. So this is something which is very important, which requires a serious engagement, and that is why we are taking this issue very seriously, and we have a very robust national process to construct the national roadmap on research infrastructures. So our national roadmap was lastly updated in 2021. We have till now 5 editions of national roadmap. From 2008 till 2021, we had quite regularly updates. So this national roadmap provides the landscape of national and European or international infrastructures, which are very important and essential to our research and innovation system. This is a result of a collective process, as I said. It is something which is not decided at the ministry level, but which is led at the ministry level. So we consult all our research organizations, all our actors, all the stakeholders, and after this broad consultation, we take a common decision, I would say, because we have a committee of directors on research infrastructures, which is piloted by the Director General and at our ministry. So this is something which is very heavy, with very important engagements from all the actors in the national in the national landscape. And actually, the inclusion of research infrastructures on the national roadmap represents a seal of quality, a seal of excellence, and a recognition of its strategic importance. Because actually, in the end, it is not directly linked to funding, but this is something which is a strategic document and which shows where we put priorities. So it helps in the end to find the necessary funding sources, or to find a combination of funding sources. So the main objectives of the national roadmap in France is to develop a real strategic analysis of research infrastructure landscape and to guarantee a comprehensive global but non-plethoric vision of the infrastructures that are essential to our research and innovation ecosystem. And I can say that S3 roadmap and S3 landscape analysis, and actually S3 process in general, was very inspiring for our national approach. We learned a lot, actually, from the European approach. We learned a lot from landscape exercise, and we also decided to make a kind of landscape overview in our national research infrastructures roadmap. So for each scientific field, we also made a kind of national landscape analysis, but also in connection with the European and the international landscape. And so we put forward the major scientific questions and societal challenges that require the use of research infrastructures. We also put forward the positioning of each infrastructure in the roadmap in relation to developments in research, in relation to the needs of communities, and also in connection with the competing facilities and all the other interfaces and complementarities between research infrastructures at the national, European, and sometimes international level. So we also identified potential gaps, and the research infrastructure roadmap gives the guidelines for the next years with prioritization principles and with the objectives in terms of impact. In the recent roadmap on research infrastructures, we also touched upon the questions of open science and data in the research infrastructures implementation. As I said, we are particularly attentive to the European dynamics, and our national roadmap timeline is actually articulated with the European timeline of updating of research infrastructures roadmap, because we think that this is an optimal way to create a pavement of research infrastructures of the highest international standards that will meet the needs of scientific communities, and because for us it is also an opportunity to think about the infrastructures in the context of the European and international landscape, actually to position in the best way our scientific communities. And so the last research infrastructures roadmap in France contains 108 research infrastructures. We have 4 categories of research infrastructures. We have 5 international research organizations, which are based on intergovernmental conventions. We have 23 research infrastructures, which are particularly followed by ministry at the ministerial level. They are earmarked at the ministry budget, and they are part of our national policy, although they are still under responsibility, scientific responsibility of research operators. And we have 73 research infrastructures whose scientific strategy and budget monitoring are under the responsibility of research organizations. And we have also 7 projects. That means that these are research infrastructures that are not yet completely mature, but they are already of strategic importance in our research landscape. And this slide is just to say how we support actually the European tendencies. That means that we support the idea that we need to consolidate and improve the European research infrastructure landscape. All this reflection on the optimization of the landscape, of the structuring role of ERICs. These ideas are also very important to us. We are also actually thinking on these issues when we are constructing our national research infrastructures roadmap. We are also considering that supporting of EOSC is important. We organized at a national level in the same way. We constructed something which we call EOSC France Community, and we are consulting our research organizations and all the relevant actors in everything which concerns EOSC issues. And we are also supporting the enabling and driving green and digital transformation of research infrastructures. And actually these points, they evoke also some questions which are also important when you construct the national roadmap. And in particular, you have this environmental impact and associated costs to ensure the sustainability of research infrastructures. This is something which is important. We know that research infrastructures need to make a lot of effort on this issue, and they need particular support for these issues. At the moment, we are taking note about that. We don't have the solution maybe, but we are pushing this question. Then energy transition and other global challenges which we are forced somehow to face during the last years. This is an important issue as well. As you can imagine, as I said, with 108 research infrastructures on the roadmap, this represents an important budget. All these issues are particularly important for us. Then there are also some questions concerning legal structures of ERICs, for example, which should be reflected on also in the frames of of the recent ERIC report, and we have some experience now with ERICs, and we have to think about it more seriously. And well, the other important point is the synergy of funding, synergy of national funding and European funding, which is very important and which is also taken into consideration when we discuss with our research infrastructures the plans for the nearest and for the farthest future in their development. And well, actually this picture is just to tell you to which extent we are happy to be part of the ESFRI family, and we are happy to support the European tendency, because for example, during our presidency in 2022, we celebrated 20 years of ESFRI, and we were really very happy to host this conference in our Academy of Sciences, which showed not only problems, which we are discussing quite often in our conferences and in our meetings, but which also showed the scientific achievements. And I think it's very important also, if you think about yesterday's panel where we spoke about impact, it's important to speak about scientific achievements and to show to the society what research infrastructures bring to us and how they help our world to move forward, to become better, and to find solutions to all of our global challenges that we are facing today. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this final message. Now we go to the panel, and we have to move a little because we mix the people. So I will call to the scene Jens Habermann, who is the director of the BBMRE, who will participate in the panel. Also together with Sally Chamber, who is also the director of DARIA. And that will be configured. Elena will stay here. And that will be the composition of the panel for the discussion period that starts now. Hope that microphone is working. It's automatically on, so please take a seat. Sorry. And well, in this panel, we will try to discuss about the broadening of the ecosystem of research infrastructure and the connection, I will say, between the European framework with the national framework. So I will start with a couple of simple questions to give you the floor, and after that we ask you questions that you have comments or interest question to raise to the panel. So the first question, I would say, because we are really in this spirit of how to collaborate more between national, let's say, roadmap or national research infrastructure with European one. Well, it's obvious the question that do you have some ideas how to improve this collaboration or how to improve the synergy between research infrastructure with national character with the European, pan-European character? So I don't know who wanted to take the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I can maybe start and then looking forward to you have to add. So I think for most of the ERICs, or at least for the life science ERICs, basically, we are operating in a very distributed way, which means our core domains or backbone actually are in the member states. So basically 85–90% of our operations are based in the member states with either local institutions, universities, university clinics, or then even organized through national hubs or national nodes. The nomenclature is a little bit different from RI to RI. And then we connect on the international level. So I think in terms of fostering the synergies or collaboration on the national level with the international RIs, this is already happening in the member states themselves. However, I think what we see and have explored basically in the LSRI group is that, of course, on the international level, we're working together, But then also on the national level, the individual infrastructures needs to start working together, and there we can learn from each other. So if different research infrastructures have also national nodes or national institutions, they start to mingle, come together, and we are learning how this works nationally, and we do this obviously also on the international level. So I think for the distributed research infrastructures, it's rather simple because it's already happening to vast extent, I would say, on the national level. But it poses also, I think, in terms of resource saving and synergies, some alignment process on all levels. And I think this is a challenge that we probably face more and more.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, actually, from the point of view of ministry, I would say we need, well, actually in France we have already, as you saw, quite well-developed landscape, and I think we certainly can do better, but I think we are doing quite well now. Why? Because we, as I said, we were very much inspired by this European approach. We settled a landscape analysis in our country at the national level, and you can identify the nodes of the European research infrastructures, for example, but you can also identify national platforms or some other things which are not part of these nodes, are not part of the research infrastructures, but which can add something complementary to the existing research infrastructures identified on the European level. And you don't need to mix them. I mean, they all have their particular missions, and we also need these platforms at the national proximity level, which are useful for learning, for studying, for teaching, for scaling up of qualifications of people. So they are also have some other proximity roles. So it is important. What is important is to make this a kind of landscape and to see who is contributing what. And the other level is certainly the European incentives, I think, which is also very important to have the necessary funding if we want to contribute to some existing research infrastructures at the European level. We need also this push also from the European level with incentives which invite these initiatives. I think, well, this is the point of view from ministerial level, but I think you better know how it works on the level of research infrastructures.
Yeah. Sure.
So in Dutch, we like to say something about the spider in the web. So I think it's really important that our ministry representatives, we have good collaboration. So for example, here I'm sitting on behalf of Daria as one of the directors of Daria, one of the social sciences and humanities infrastructures. And what we see is we really try to involve the ministries in our day-to-day operations through the General Assembly. But what is the spider in the web is the person who interconnects things. This is the role of our national coordinators. And for example, in Belgium, we've got various different national, we're more federal, let's say. So there needs to be somebody who can interconnect between the different levels of the government, but then also work very closely with the ministries. So I think it has improved. I mean, Daria has been on the roadmap, for, it's now a landmark. And it's about aligning timings, for example. So the roadmap exercises, aligning the timings with national roadmaps and also national funding. So it can all sort of, interrelate to each other. But I think it's really down to the people, to the conversations, making sure that national coordinators, so for example, in many of the social science and humanities, we have a national coordinator. They work very closely with the ministry, and it sort of becomes a virtuous circle between the local levels and the national and European level, I would say.
Yeah, thank you, this granularity.
Yeah, if I may add to that, and I think I fully confirm what you're saying, that you need to have one person in charge on the national level, and these are the national node directors or HAP directors, so to say. But I think one important aspect is there is not probably a concept that fits all member states. That's what we're experiencing in BMI ERIC, because we see that, for instance, in the Netherlands, there is basically Elixir, Airtrace, and BMI nodes were joined towards Health RI. And that concept seems to work for the Netherlands, for the good or the bad. I don't know, we all learn from these endeavors. And in other countries, in Italy, where basically Airtrace, Ecran, and BMI working together, they have a very different focus than, for instance, these three RIs working together on the national level in Spain. And so you can go around the European member states and find different models. So they are fitting the individual member states. But for us as international organizations or ERICs, it's the national hubs or national nodes which basically are the contact points and to align then nationally and what happens nationally then on the international level.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, clearly there's a granularity around Europe that we have to take into account. But you already started this pointing this argument, but my next question is not just how to improve the synergy, not only at the level of collaboration in one particular research infrastructure, but how about to increase the collaboration or the complementarity or the synergy between national roadmap and European roadmap. So you already comment about that, but will be possibilities to, let's say, better collaboration? I mean, of course, from your point of view of one research infrastructure, the question will be how you could collaborate with different of your member states in your council, how they develop his own roadmap with the, of course, with respect and with the integration of the different granularity and different situation in every country, but how this could be better aligned and to have better synergy with European, let's say, landscape analysis or roadmap, that is also important. So do you have some magic ideas or solutions or ways to explore, I would say, to be more practical? You can think about ways to really explore this line that will be probably at the end of the road, improve this synergy.
Maybe I could start and then other colleagues could contribute. So with the, I think it was on your slides, Jose Luis, there was the Oscars project. This is the next step for the science clusters. So the science clusters, as you may be aware, are the sort of clusters of different research infrastructures that roughly map to the S3 strategy working groups, more or less. But this is trying to really, Oscars will try to make these science clusters. So there's already been Horizon projects to sort of set up and establish these clusters of research infrastructures, but now Oscars project will help them to become more mature. And I think this is going to be really useful to sort of, we've already seen, so for example, in the Netherlands, there is already SHOC in the Netherlands, so all of the sort of social sciences and humanities infrastructures coming together, and there was already, as Jens was saying, there are already sort of different flavors. And I do think we need to understand what the strengths and the priorities, scientific priorities of the different clusters. So for example, in SHOC, we may have Daria, Clarin, and Operas in one country, but Clarin, Daria, and Erie in a different country. So I think it's more like a jigsaw puzzle, perhaps, where you put together the right research infrastructures for your own country under the larger umbrella of the different science clusters. And I think it won't be one size fits all, but really important to sort of align with the scientific priorities in the country, but also to sort of map what is happening at the European level, maybe.
Yes, I agree. I think we shouldn't forget that not all the countries have roadmaps. Most of them, but not all of them. Most of the countries have some other maybe strategic documents. Yes, exactly. So there are national strategies certainly in research infrastructures. There are European strategies and European directions. I think actually it should be articulated in a clever way so that we capitalize on the things which we construct together. And maybe today is also the point when we think about sustainability and the resources. We should avoid certainly duplication, but then it's, and again, this is something which each country governs for itself.
I mean, we should certainly think about the complementarity of the existing and what we would like to construct. We certainly should not forget about the new initiatives, because we always have some new needs, and even in spite of the fact that today we have such a big landscape with such a lot of investments, we still need new ideas, new things, and new initiatives which you also have to support. And I think we need this kind of platforms and forum for discussion, to meet each other and to think all together about future.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, maybe let's start from an individual RI, and let's start from Biber Meyerick, because what we realize is that the alignment, what we are doing as a European infrastructure, is not very easy to align with member states' activities on specific biobanking, biomolecular resources, because the timeline is basically the crucial point, and that's the nice slide that you showed in the beginning, the different horizons on planning ahead. And I think we all need to basically have a long-term perspective, so to say. So what we saw is that the national programs in our member states are then not really aligned to what we're doing on the international level. And that's why we started to work together with our Assembly of Member Delegates, with the national nodes, with our biobanks, wider stakeholders, to work on a roadmap with a 10-year strategy for Biber Meyerick. This has been a very intensive and, I would say also emotional process, but it was very helpful because we also learned from the ministries what are their priorities, from the national nodes, from the community, and bringing this all together. So now we are hoping to get this approved by Assembly of Members in the summer AOM, but this will be then the roadmap where also the member states and the national communities can align towards their own national funding and roadmap, so to say. So this is something which BBMI was doing now, but if we would help the infrastructures to do this basically per se, I think it would be a much easier scale to engage everyone and to buy into this, or this kind of roadmap overarching. Obviously, talking about OSCARs, yes, this is good, but I would say looking from one infrastructure to the clusters, it's not sufficient, because the OSCARs doesn't basically have all the infrastructures from all the clusters engaged. So there are few representing the others, but that it's in kind to bring the others in, and this is a little bit a gap that we are seeing there. So I would urge also for cluster funding in the clusters of the ERIC, so to say, to make this alignment really possible. One aspect you brought up, I think, and what I missed a little bit in the beginning, and it might be a little provocative, but we face a lot of fragmentation. And I think this is counteracting this alignment we are talking about. And I think we need to be very careful looking at gaps which are there, yes, but how we can close these gaps. Does it afford new structures, new setups, or can we expand on what is already there? Because the more fragmentation we have, the more challenging this alignment that we urgently need in order to use synergies and to foster basically and address the challenges that we all will face in the next decade can be captured.
Yeah, this is a very important point, especially for the coming update of the roadmap that we have to do, but we take the message. Now the moment is, are there questions from the audience about this topic? Yes, please. Please, maybe you present yourself.
Yes, I'm Tord Ekel of Uppsala University, Sweden. So for the European nations, countries, it's a great asset to be part of Europe, such that not each nation needs to set up a research infrastructure in all domains by itself, but can collaborate on an international level. My question regards the position of Europe in the world. So there are other regions in the world where there are also research infrastructures, notably United States, China, Japan, India, Russia, etc. To what extent shall we strive to be complete in Europe and cover most of the needs that we have here, or can we plan to collaborate internationally such that in certain domains we would rely and use research infrastructures in other countries only and not have that activity within Europe? So to what extent will Europe be competing with the others or collaborating? Thank you.
Well, yesterday we were discussing that in another forum, particular forum, but I will start later, you will continue. But I will say first, just to make some publicity, will be an event with the ICRI, International Conference on Infrastructure, is really this year in Brisbane, and that will be one of the issues to be discussed. I mean, how to improve the collaboration or the competition, if this is the way to do. In my opinion, it would be much better to collaborate at least with our, let's say, people or research infrastructure who are equivalent to the European one, and I think it's much better to collaborate. So I was yesterday discussing that I really started in research infrastructure, large research infrastructure in 1984, so I'm quite old already. And at that moment was very typical, in my institute, I was working in the area of neutron scattering techniques. In that moment was very typical that the Japanese and American come to this installation, was the ILL in Grenoble, to do experiment, and was very typical that we go to the United States to make complementary things in Oak Ridge, Brookhaven National Labs, or Los Alamos, or in Japan. And was very typical, and was a gentleman agreement between the different areas that we give beam time to you, and you will give beam time to us, and that will be very complementary. On top of that, was really very important because in some areas, some people developed a very particular techniques, or very particular detector or polarizer and things like that. And when you visit there and you make experiment there, you, wow, this is fantastic. You have to replicate that, and you don't need to do all the research from scratch in order to achieve this kind of technique. So I'm much in favor of the collaboration, mutual collaboration between equals, and of course, with some degree of competition, because this is always healthy in order to try to improve the imagination and the productivity. But I don't know if you have some different point of views.
Maybe I could just add, not a different point of view, but collaboration for us in the social sciences, humanities, research doesn't stop at the European borders. So I think it's really essential that we do collaborate with our colleagues. I mean, for example, in Daria, we had something called Daria Beyond Europe, where we reached out to colleagues in other countries. In Clarin, I think, for example, they have cooperating or partners in different members. For example, Afrikaans as a language, very interesting for European context as well. So I think it's really important that we foster these collaborations. We have cooperating partners in different countries. And also, one of the comments that came to back, what about the Global South? How can we, as European infrastructures, support research in less countries that don't have some of the opportunities that we have?
Yeah, one of the points will be, we keep that at the level of individual people, or research infrastructure individual, or we go to a frame.
The concern of S3.
Yeah.
What is,
I mean,
nations are collaborating, but
S3, I mean, we think we have to collaborate, and we need to keep this national or individual research infrastructure, but we need probably a frame in order to do that more general. That will be my point.
But we also have a group which is working on international collaboration. So probably in the frame of this group, we will produce a document which will serve as an orientation paper. And as José Luis showed in his presentation, we certainly take into account all these developments at OECD level and GSF and GSO, G7. So we are taking it into account, and we are really thinking about it.
Certainly. Yes, yes.
I think similar also for the life sciences research infrastructures. Individually, we have many collaborations outside Europe, in Africa, North and South America, in Asia, and so forth. But I would agree that maybe it would be worthwhile to consider how we can bring the research infrastructures together on a concept to basically operate and collaborate more formally outside Europe in order to address these global challenges.
Thank you. Are more questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, about this last point, I was going to ask something different, but about this last point about our working together for internationalization, I want to point people to the ERIC Forum work. In the ERIC Forum project, we have an internationalization work package. And, sorry, I'm Claudia Lermar from Instruct. And Instruct leads this work package. Then this is an offer that if the collective of all ERICs working together for internationalization matters is a lot more powerful than each ERIC individually. And this is just an invitation to anyone that would like to collaborate with, not just with INSTRAC, but with all ERICs in this important matter. But the reason I put my hand up was actually for something that Elena brought up that I think is very important, and is this collaboration between the national efforts in infrastructure and the European. And France has been a fantastic example for us in INSTRAC. Frisbee, which is the national part of INSTRAC in France, involve many different centers, of which some of them are part of INSTRAC. And they work collaboratively, and they work in synergy. And I suppose I always, when somebody asks me as an example, I always put France as an example, because DICE has been a great way to work. Then I was going to ask Elena if there had been some support from the country to make this happen, or it's just that my partners in France are great.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to listen to such words, to be honest. Yes, well, I mean, support in the way that we are trying to organize our communities, because in a big country with a lot of initiatives, you cannot just let everybody do whatever they want. And in a certain moment, they want to organize themselves anyway, because they understand that if they want to have support, they need to show how they are working together. So for biology, typically we have something which is called like a group of scientific initiative, I would say, which organizes the platforms, national platforms in biology. And in this group, they discuss with all the platforms who are national platforms, or sometimes they are parts of the national nodes of distributed European research infrastructures. So they discuss together how they can work together, how they can also contribute something to the national roadmap, and how they can contribute their inputs to the European roadmaps. So, and this works actually quite well, this organization. They meet each other regularly, and they discuss common problems about the organization of ERICs, how we are, I don't know, how we are inviting the users, how we treat the users, how we put in place the procedures. And this is like a mutual learning instrument, because they can speak about their European experience, they can speak about their national experience, they discuss. So it works really well, and actually it was not pushed by the ministry, it was organized by the research organizations, by the platforms themselves, and then finally they found this way of functioning, and I think it's really a good example of a good best practice.
Thank you. I think we have the last question.
Yes, it's more a remark than a question. It's an answer on the question of the globalization. My name is Werner Kutsch. I'm the director of ICOS. ICOS does ecosystem observations as ELTER does in Europe. And we have started already 6 years ago a communication process with NEON in the US, which is a really big ecosystem observation network, with CERN, the Chinese Ecosystem Research Network, another CERN, with TERN in Australia, and with SEON in South Africa. And we have signed a memorandum of understanding called GERI, Global Ecosystem Research Network, already 5 years ago, and we are doing harmonization of our methods. We are producing common data sets, and I think that's an example how we, from the European research infrastructures, can connect to other regions in the world and build up global research infrastructures by cooperating and bringing these networks together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I participate very often with Elena in the GSF from the OECD, and there are many presentations like that, the collaboration in this kind of research infrastructure with Japan, with United States, and I think it's very interesting, but the question was, and I understand and I completely agree, it has to be done on the, let's say, on the initiative of individual research infrastructure, or could be more structural one, and to have some kind of umbrella. And I think it should be a mixture between two, or the less should be the research infrastructures who determine the priorities and think that this is possible in their way, their space to do that. But we need some kind of framework to support that. So thank you very much. I think we arrived to the end of this panel. I would like to thank again the people who made the presentation and the people here in the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we'll have a break till 10:30, half an hour. 11, sorry, thank you, 11. Okay, I think we'll just start, and I assume that most people will walk in afterwards. So our next session is about strengthening and consolidating the research infrastructure landscape. And before we get the speakers on stage, I would like to ask you to think just 1 minute for yourself. What could you or your organization do to strengthen or help to consolidate the research infrastructure landscape? And just write it down somewhere. It helps to actually make a change if you write it down. What can you or your organization do to strengthen or help consolidating the research institute landscape? And by the time you are finished, I guess most of your colleagues will have arrived. Okay, with that written down, that's already a first step. Maybe some more steps can be provided by our next panel, which will be chaired and moderated by Michael Arendtoft. He's the head of unit Open Science and Research Infrastructures at the European Commission.
Thank you very much. I will start slowly because I can see the audience is still coming back from the coffee break. As we saw in the first session, we know that Europe has a very rich landscape, which is underpinning the European research area, the ESFRIs, including the ERICs, the national research infrastructures, the Aeroforum organizations as well. So in this session, we will have a closer look at how we can strengthen and consolidate this very rich landscape. We will first have 4 presentations which cover different aspects of how this can be strengthened and also consolidated. And then, as you saw in the first session, we will have a crossover of speakers that will be composing the panel for this session. So we will first hear a viewpoint of what have been the benefits of ERICs. I mean, we heard some of that, of course, yesterday in the ERIC plate ceremony. So how have the fact of being an ERIC facilitated formation of consortia of member states? How have the fact of being an ERIC reduced fragmentation, reduced duplication of efforts? How has it improved coordination of development and construction of research infrastructures, and probably other things we will hear from the speaker. The second one is about the current challenges faced by ERICs, could be in terms of investment needs, could be in terms of how best to prioritize resources that, of course, need to go into the daily operations. They need to go into the upgrades that are needed to fulfill new tasks of the research communities, cross-disciplinarity, interaction with other new types of users. They need to have greening measures in place. From an ERIC point of view, are there issues around recognition in the national funding landscapes? We also heard the issues of most of ERICs being distributed, so what does that mean in terms of the national nodes? And then we will have 2 presentations, very importantly, also picking up of some of the interventions yesterday, which is about digitalization. So how are different initiatives joining up digital services and resources for research infrastructures, and how is this helping research infrastructures make full use of digital technologies? So we will first hear these 4 presentations, and for that I would like to invite to the stage Jens Habermann, who is the Director General of BBMRI, ERIC, so the Research Infrastructure for European Biobanking. Please, Jens. Antje Kepler, who is the Director of Eurobioimaging, BioHubs, and she's also the Chair of the ERIC Forum. Welcome, Antje. Sally Chambers, who you have also already seen, who is the Director of the Digital Research Infrastructures for the Arts and Humanities. And last but not least, Catherine Stover, who is the Chief Communications Officer of Géant. So we will soon hear the 4 presentations, and as José Luis, I will start with a couple of questions for all of you, which will be, of course, around the title of the sessions, how to consolidate and strengthen the landscape, with the first one more around streamlining and prioritization, and the second one around can we think of new funding models so that we can promote synergies between the funding sources and joint investments. So without further delay, I would like to invite Jens to give your presentation, so on the benefits of ERICs. Please.
Yeah, thank you so much for this kind introduction, and I'm really delighted to be here, and would like to talk about the benefits of being in ERIC, but I would like to speak also on behalf of the Life Science Strategy Board or the Life Science Cluster. But maybe let's start with BioMRI-ERIC, which is a European research infrastructure for biobanking and biomolecular resources in health and life sciences. And we just turned 10 years, end of last year, and celebrated that with our friends and colleagues. So what does it mean actually to be a distributed life science infrastructure? And you can see here all these little orange circles denote a biobank in our member states and observer states, and they are coordinated by our national nodes, which are orange squares, and through these national nodes, all the biobanks are connected. So indeed, while basically the member states and observers are the backbone constituting our research infrastructure, it is about 400 biobanks and the national nodes which are really forming this infrastructure. And the overlay, the roof of everything, is basically the international research infrastructure. And bringing all these competences together, you can see it's also more than just the universities where the biobanks are located, because we have expert groups on LC, quality management, and IT experts, and furthermore, which are in the member states. So it's really a very distributed part. And keep this in mind, because most of the research infrastructures in the life science domain operate as such. So thinking about this overhead then of the individual biobanks being connected to the national nodes, it's the access life cycle. And you can see on the right top the biobank, which basically pushes the data, the metadata, into our discovery tools, which is a directory, which is the largest catalog worldwide, representing more than 5.1 million patients across 32 countries. Or it's a federated platform, which has been launched just end of last year, which allows on a patient individual or sample individual level much more granular search and analysis tools. So for instance, reflecting about 200,000 genomes across 10 European countries. And this is basically what the overlay of an infrastructure means, built up on the individual activities locally, regionally, and nationally. Now talking about biobanking, there are different biobank types. And what is very important, all these different biobank types you see on the left side here, they need to be supported by various requirements, which we obviously have reflected in the headquarters, in the national nodes, and the individual biobanks. But what I would like to say here is, even so the majority of our biobanks are operating in the healthcare integrated biobanking field, biobanking is generic. And with this one, we feel we can support even further and towards the One Health paradigm. And I think talking in this conference about the challenges that we are facing overall, climate crisis obviously is one of them, and you're all probably familiar with this One Health approach. And I think what the life science infrastructures can really do, we can basically cross-link and bridge between sectors and disciplines. We can facilitate the collaboration, the coordination, communication, and capacity building in addressing certain challenges. And I think this is what we all can do in the life science domain. And who are we actually? Well, it's this 14 European life science research infrastructures. Not all of them are yet in ERIC, but we're very proud that InfraFrontier got the plate yesterday, so congratulations. And we are really providing access to world-class facilities, experts, biological samples, instruments, services, and data, and hereby supporting cutting-edge science and to both sides, academia, but also industry. That comes along also with capacity building, training, education, consultation, standardization, harmonization. And the life science cluster is the largest cluster within the ERIC domain. Now, we were working together very closely, not only because we want to, but we also got the opportunity, thanks to the European Commission, by many, many EC project-funded projects. And you can see here what basically Michael Reyes started from InfraFrontier when he was the chair of the Life Science Board, looking at all the projects where we're collaborating across the life sciences infrastructures. And this is quite substantial because it closed the gaps among our infrastructures and using synergies to the fullest. And this is an aspect which I think is undersourced or not undersourced, but underused by the European Commission and the member states. So it's a plea to make more use of us. And one example is basically CanSurf. It's providing cutting-edge cancer research services across Europe. And you can see here 13 of these 14 LSRI came together. We selected 150 service sites across our wider member states and observers. And they came up with about 400 plus cutting-edge services in 10 different research fields. So it comes from basic science, animal models, omic technologies, clinical trial support, molecular tumor boards, bioinformatics, machine learning, AI, LC guidance, training and services, and so forth. And in the first call that CanSurf was putting out, we got over about 150 applications from 32 countries, so quite a good outreach. But what was astonishing is that these applications really ticked the boxes across the service providers, across the research infrastructures, across member states and research domains. And this was possible because we created one single entry point for researchers to access basically all the services in the life science domain, of course specifically for cancer, but what I tried to showcase before, this generic setup of all of us affords us also and allows us to scale this up to other research domains. There's also this one European molecular tumor board network, which we basically started within CanSurf with the molecular tumor board outcome registry, which also shows we can offer a neutral platform inviting everyone, and this has attracted over 300 clinician scientists across the globe, actually. So also internationalization is a key for us. Now moving forward, of course, we are not only working in cancer, and this basically depicts that we are really operating generically, bringing in our resources across different relevant EU initiatives, starting from the Cancer Mission Beating Cancer Plan with cancer, for instance, but also EOS for Cancer, OICAM and UncanU, but also pandemic preparedness, and EasyDoor is also a success story, very similar to cancer with CanSurf with a setup. We also participate in European partnerships like the personalized medicine, rare diseases. We are obviously feeling ourselves being EOSC and supporting EOSC Association, building it. And we are also participating in supporting European health data space. So overall, I think we are a great family in the life science infrastructures, have been growing very closely together and can offer a lot generically and scalable. So make use of us. Then the next level, and Antje will talk about this a little in the talk after me, is the ERIC Forum 2 project, and we are very proud to basically have this funded by the European Commission. And here it's key topics that is like ERIC implementation and operations, such as the also internationalization, which Claudia was bringing up in the last panel discussion, which is really key, but also it's the greening, it's personal related challenges, and cooperation with ERICs 2B. So this is also the wider family of ERICs very closely working together. Now looking at the ERIC model for BBMI ERIC, I think I could show you that we were very happy to got a very strong governance model, that we have very strong alignments with our member states, growing also our family basically within BBMI ERIC, and the close linkage to national ministries and the European Commission. The VAT exemption is certainly an aspect, but as we all experience it, it comes with challenges with certain partners. So this is something to look into. Looking at it together with the LSRI basically perspective, I think what I really try to say, we can strongly contribute to EU research policies by pooling our resources, actually. And that's what we have been showcasing in different projects already together. The latest one's EasyDoor, but there's also then Cancer, for instance. And I think we would also foster the idea of avoiding further fragmentation, because bringing all of us together, closing gaps among ourselves, I think we can be also brought to the table to discuss, if there are still gaps, how to close them the best. So I think collaboration on a range of activities via the ERIC Forum 2 project, it really brings a strong ERIC community with expertise at the core activities of structuring ERA. With this one, I'm at the end. Thank you for your attention, and congratulations to the organizers, because I think this is a really great conference with many perspectives and very balanced presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jens, not only for giving us the benefits of being an ERIC, but also the benefits that the fact of being an ERIC can bring together other ERICs in a common setting and other research infrastructures, so that research infrastructures as a whole can come forward and be relevant in policy priorities as well, and not only for the sciences that they represent. So let me give the floor now to Antje, who will present to us some of the challenges. We have all the positive things, of course, but we also always stand in front of a number of challenges that you started to point to at the end of the slides. So let's have the continuation of that and more details. Thank you, Antje.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone, and thank you also on behalf of ERIC Forum to the organizers that I have the opportunity here to present to you some challenges, but as you will see, I cannot resist to also talk a little bit about the strengths of ERICs. So for those of you who are not familiar yet with ERIC Forum, we are a bottom-up collaboration of all the 28 currently existing European research infrastructure consortia, and ERIC Forum started in 2017, bringing together the ERICs from the social sciences and humanities, physics, engineering, astronomy, social sciences, and life sciences, and environmental sciences. So ERIC Forum is really representing the broader scope of the scientific communities in Europe. And we have been growing together in a very fruitful and collaborative ecosystem over the past years, where we regularly meet to exchange best practices, experiences in implementing and operating the research infrastructures, and also identifying the common challenges that we have that I will present to you in a minute, but also then to tackle those and find solutions together. What is also important from ERIC Forum is that we provide visibility to those challenges, but also to the individual ERICs on our impact, talk together with the key stakeholders on the sustainability for the ERICs, and we are being therefore the voice for ERIC on all matters of common interest. And a point I would really like to stress here is, as we are an up and running ecosystem of 28 ERICs across all the sciences, we would really like to be seen as a contributor to European science policy objectives in the research context. At this point, I would like to thank Michael Arentoft and the ERIC team at the European Commission, because every other week we have the opportunity of a bilateral meeting between ERIC Forum and the individual ERICs, as well as the Commission at the other end. And over the past year, we had the opportunity to present almost all the ERICs to you individually. And they have been talking about their challenges that they are individually facing, but some of the challenges have been repetitive and have been coming up over and over again. And those are the ones that I want to highlight in the next 3 slides to this audience. So when it comes to implementation, the challenges that ERICs are facing is that in many cases still, the national institutions are often not really aware of what ERICs are and really should learn more about that we are up and running existing legal entities, because many ERICs are still facing problems when it comes to the eligibility, for example, for national funding. They also would like to get better guidance on expectations when it comes to our activities, so that we can enhance our broader impact for all the stakeholders that we are trying to serve and support. And then a point that was brought up just before, but also yesterday from ESFRI in our communication, we also want to strengthen the ERICs as players in a globally integrated research infrastructure ecosystem. And I'm very much looking forward, together with Instruct ERIC and ERIC Forum Project, to work together on the data that we already have collected. Operation. Here, the funding programs for the utilization of research infrastructures that can be accessed, but that can also be the usage of the data that is provided, is still complex, fragmented, and under-resourced. So therefore, often scientists can still not benefit from the full portfolio of what we can offer. ERICs also should be included continuously in underpinning the wider EU policy objectives, including the EU missions and the strategies when it comes to the global challenges, as just presented also by Jens. In the regulation, the economic activities of ERICs are not super well defined, and therefore we are running into some conflicts here, and we would really like to better understand what is the framework in which we can work. And last but not least, researchers who contribute to the research infrastructures in kind, often out of passion and motivation because they believe in our services, they don't get yet the appropriate credit they really deserve for this, and that would help to advance their own careers. Sustainability. The challenges here are that we believe that the focus in the next years has to be on fortifying the capabilities of the existing research infrastructures, because we have invested so much over the past 20 years through ESFRI, through the national roadmaps, through the dialogue with the European Commission. So I think here we should really underpin the efficient use of those investments. What we still see in most cases, especially at many of the smaller ERICs, is a critical resource limitation and an understaffing. That also leads me to the next point, that for the ERICs, we often cannot provide career perspectives for the staff working. And we have really highly skilled, motivated people working for the research infrastructures, and we want to remain an attractive employer for these. And then, of course, a point that was highlighted before many times, the visibility that we still need and the recognition by all stakeholders involved. But I don't want to finish on challenges because that's not what I do. The strengths of ERICs, to come back to a point that Jens already highlighted before. So I think that the legal tool of European Research Infrastructure Consortia allows a very flexible tool that allows a given set of member states to react upon their priorities that they have identified for research infrastructures and join forces so that they can implement sustainable research infrastructures. By now, with 28 ERICs being implemented, it's a well-tested legal model, and also the communication we have seen over the past years and the reports that have been put into place, such as the EG ERIC report, and the experts around the infrastructures and at the different stakeholders. We have so much know-how assembled now. Let's benefit from this for future research infrastructures. So we have a broad community of existing ERICs that can and should underpin European research and strategy. And we can also combine our primary missions, as outlined in the original business models, to address the societal challenges. And I believe we should be invited much more often to the table of policymakers, not only of the ones that are implementing research infrastructures, but also of the ones working for environmental implementations, for health research, to listen to us what the ERICs and also in general the European research infrastructures can bring to the table. We are very active, and I just want to highlight here, we had a Framework Program 10 related position paper, which came out about 6 weeks ago, where we again address that the focus of the FP10 should be on enhancing funding modalities for European research infrastructures, also on expanding our geographical inclusion, structural support, and strengthening innovation and service to industry. Please feel free to go to the ERIC Forum website if you would like to learn more about this position paper. From ERIC Forum, we are also active and contributing to many activities that are ongoing. It's not only under the ERIC Forum Project 2, where we are strengthening the ERIC ecosystem, but we are also contributing as mandated organization to the EOSC Federation. At the moment, this role is done by Instruct ERIC. We are contributing to the new informal expert group on technology infrastructures to make sure that we are heard that research infrastructures are providing access and support to SMEs and commercial users. We're also contributing to the update, a potential update of the ERIC operational guidelines, the European Charter for Access. We are highlighting, as I just pointed out, the needs of research infrastructures in FP10, and we want to support and provide, and we do this advice to prospective ERICs for their implementation. And this is my last slide. I have adapted this from a colleague from Canada, Claire Brown. She works there at McGill University. And originally, this was presented in the context of open access to imaging infrastructures. But I feel that this slide is really valid for all open access quality managed research infrastructures. It shows how we have been changing the landscape over the past 10 years, something that sometimes, in my view, too much overlooked. Because of our existence, we see now a much faster exchange across the experts, across the scientific communities, when it comes to fast advancing knowledge and technology developments. This can take place in various forms, such as the infrastructures providing the space for expert groups, workshops, and sending out newsletters on those highlights. We are providing access to scientific communities at large, and they can benefit now from the added value, also relying on our quality managed services. We provide also the space for collaboration cross-domain in the LSRI group, in the ERIC forum, in the clusters, so that new science, new knowledge is being kicked off. So this is nothing that's in the future. It's taking place while we are here. And thereby we can overcome time constraints, which is very relevant when we look at the European competitiveness and innovation, a topic that was highlighted here yesterday. Furthermore, we are a place, and we have the knowledge to train the people, the staff, at a really advanced level. We have trained the trainer programs, we have shared resources out there that are available for all scientists and staff working in research infrastructures and beyond. And last but not least, data. So in the research infrastructures, we bring together the communities to discuss and be also the contact point for their international peers to agree on data standards, data formats, harmonization, metadata, and such, so that we come closer to a world where we have global data sharing that will then help us to tackle the global challenges. And with this, I would give you the take-home message. 28 ERICs are up and running. We are operational. We provide a lot of impact every single day, and we really want to be seen as strategic assets for the European research area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Antje, for going through this set of challenges. Many of them, of course, we identified last year when we issued the third report from the Commission on the application of the ERIC regulation. But the interactions we have had with you and the ERICs in general, or I should say also with research infrastructures overall, because the challenges, they apply to ERICs, but most of them, if not all, apply to research infrastructures in general. This discussion over the last 6 months has really helped us to understand more in detail the challenges and also what to do about them. And we have at least two means. One is to update the practical guidelines for application of the ERIC regulation. And another one, of course, for those that cannot be solved by just updating the guidelines, we have to think of revising the ERIC regulation. And this is something we could put on the agenda for the next Commission. On your last slide, I noticed the last box, which was exactly about data handling, digitalization in general, and how to join up digital services and resources for the use of research infrastructures. And for that, we have, as I said, two interventions. And I would like to ask Sally first to give her presentation from the point of view of one discipline, SSH, and Daria in particular. Sally.
Thanks very much, and I'm very happy to be here, and particularly in the Royal Library. So here we're talking about research infrastructures in a cultural heritage context. So I'll come back to this as well. So if we're looking at joining up digital services and resources for research infrastructures, we wanted to share with you the perspective from the social sciences and humanities. So firstly, I'm going to start with a scary picture. But the idea of sharing this with you is to try and simplify this and really put forward the challenges that we need to look at in the coming years and how we can work to solve them. So not only for the social sciences and humanities, but this is the perspective we provide this morning, but for the research infrastructures in general, the landscape is increasingly complex. In Jens's slides, we also had the data spaces. In the area of social sciences and humanities, there is the emerging flagship project, the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage, and the related initiatives. And of course, we have could be called the data space for research and innovation, or EOSC. So research infrastructures really have to operate in this complex landscape. So I don't need, this is the 2021 roadmap, but with this number of research infrastructures, we're already dealing with a lot of different infrastructures, and these new initiatives make this even more complex. But what is really important, and maybe going back to this, is that we have and increasingly have the different clusters. For example, in the ESFRI, we have these different clusters, and to support this, we have the different ESFRI strategy working groups. So here, and Hannah is in the room somewhere as well, our chair, we have the strategy working group for social sciences and humanities, which was recently renamed. And I think it's really crucial that we take this opportunity to have this direct interaction with ESFRI in this way. It was already mentioned earlier, OSCAR's Open Science Clusters Action for Research and Society. I think this is really interesting in that sometimes research infrastructures are said to not reach out to all of the different communities, and through, for example, this cascading grant program, our first call closed recently, and we had over 264 different proposals from across the disciplines, including interdisciplinary projects and projects that felt that they fell disciplinarily outside of the different clusters. We had a very interesting uptake, and I think this is really interesting to show how we can work out and reach out to the long tail of science. Within Daria in particular, we already started to think about the importance of cultural heritage. So a couple of years ago now, we thought of cultural heritage data actually as humanities research data. Humanists, literary scholars, historians really can't do their research without us having access to cultural heritage data. So it is wonderful the fact that, led by, for example, Europeana and the wider consortium, we do have and can actually contribute to initiatives such as the Common Data Space for Cultural Heritage. Within this, we're working, within this framework, apologies, one of these colds I picked up on the way. Within this framework, we can start thinking of cultural heritage collections as humanities research data. And this actually came from a UNS-based initiative called Collections as Data. So if we can think of cultural heritage collections, collections in libraries, archives, museums, but also natural heritage, such as DISCO. They work a lot with, for example, natural history collections in the environmental cluster. I think if we can work out and how we can turn these collection management systems inside out so the data is there available, and it's actually the research data that we need in the humanities to be able to do our work. Cultural heritage is not the only data space that is of interest to the social science and humanities. The European language data space, of course, is of relevance. And of course, as I mentioned, EOSC, how do we have the virtual circle so that we take the cultural heritage data, we analyze it within digital methods in the different research infrastructures, and then we pay that back to make sure that our results, whether they be software, publications, research data, services, and going back to what Antje said about the importance of getting research recognition for researchers to contribute to research infrastructures. So it should be this virtuous circle of providing our results back into EOSC from these various different infrastructures. Here on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that the science clusters, I mentioned it earlier, the clusters of the different research infrastructures that are coming together. We produced a position statement on our operational commitment to EOSC. And as Christos from LifeWatch Eric would always say in the EOSC Future Project, we need to now, we focus a lot about putting the cloud into EOSC. We really need to put the science into EOSC. And this is really the role of S3 research infrastructures. So this position statement from the science clusters really positions ourselves to bring all of the contributions. As Antje was saying, there's 28 ERICs already, 63 on the roadmap, how we can contribute to the establishment of the European Open Science Cloud and as part of the EOSC Federation. In the social science and the humanities, I think it's really important that we mention this other flagship initiative, the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. Many of the experts who contributed to the ex-ante report, so that there's the first report that is listed here, and then the second report, the stakeholder survey, which was very widely taken up. And these two contributed to the first two calls last year for the Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. Yesterday, we were at the first steering board committee, so the first platform for the Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage kicked off on the 1st of June, and the other two projects will kick off on the 1st of September. This is a huge-scale project. It will go over with several different calls in the next coming programs. It is really important that we make sure that the data spaces, the collaborative cloud, all feed back in collaboration with the different research infrastructures. So, if we take the perspective of the social sciences and humanities as a cluster of, at the moment, 11 research infrastructures with a mixture between landmarks and emerging infrastructures, what we really need to do is to take a strategic approach to this complex landscape. So, for example, here we have the shock priorities for 2024 to 28 with our really action plan. So, for example, the work that we're doing in Oscars is directly related to contributing to our strategic objectives. But if I just take the first strategic pillar, sharing data, tools and workflows, this is embedded into the strategic priorities, but as you can see, it really works across the data space, the collaborative cloud, and other initiatives. And I think it is really, excuse me again. Apologies. I think it is really important that we understand how all of the tools, services, data, and workflows that we are creating within the different infrastructures interlink and can be connected to the EOSC Federation. So I think, and when José Luis Martinez talked at the S3 Strategy Working Group, he gave us two priorities for social sciences and humanities. He gave us two priorities. First, understand what is the role of SSH infrastructures within the EOSC Federation, and the second one, how does the EDIC, which is related to the data spaces, and the ERIC, what is the interrelationship to us, and how, as social sciences and humanities, should we align ourselves with these different legal entities. So I think this was really valuable advice for us, and something that we're taking forward in the SSH Open Cluster. I wanted to share this because it's really important that we work together and actually practice what we preach. in terms of open science practices. So some of you may be aware of the EOSC Future project. On that, many different services, data sources, tools, publications, training materials were onboarded by the research infrastructures into the EOSC catalogue and marketplace. As we make the new transition, so the EOSC EU node, the first information is already out there, and the first operational version of the node will be launched later at the EOSC Symposium this year. We did a lot of work as S3 infrastructures to onboard and share our services and data sources within the EOSC context. So, as part of the OSCARS project, Paul Miller, who is related to the PANOSC science cluster, we've downloaded that data and actually publishing it as an open science data set within the EOSC framework. And I think this is really important because we can start analyzing which services are we sharing, which are the gaps, which are the opportunities to collaborate, so we can start really looking at the service data sources and portfolios that we actually provide into EOSC and taking a strategic approach to this. And I think this is one of the things that came out of the EOSC Future project as well, is we need, as research infrastructures, to understand how mature we are in terms of EOSC a collaboration, let would say. So this maturity from 1, a basic awareness of EOSC, to 3, onboarding our services into the EOSC Federation, 5, integrating with the core services, and I think we have a JAONT speaker next, thinking about the AAI, the login, the single sign-on, the core services that the e-infrastructures also provide, and most importantly, level 7 is how we transparently recognize and represent our actual scientific workflows. So this is the methodological layer, how we can describe our workflows of how we work with data, services, in a digital, based on digital methods, in open scholarly workflows, and how we can share those with others within the EOSC Federation ecosystem. I think we're not there yet.
If you could speed up.
Sorry, I thought I got...
The timing is wrong.
Oh, okay, thanks. This is I've got 2 more slides. Sure. Okay, how we can share that with each other in the framework. So just to wrap up then, apologies, I was looking at the time here. It's really important that we do this at the national level. So, for example, this is the Claria infrastructure of humanities and research data lifecycle in Flanders. So you can see how this really works at the local level. And here you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the cultural heritage data. It is used both with humans to crowdsource and train handwritten text recognition using AI through this pipeline. And it's these kind of workflows that we need to make explicit. So I will just wrap up here and say, I think as research infrastructures, it's really, really important that we think how we are going to structurally collaborate with the data spaces, with the collaborative cloud for cultural heritage. And this is a very interesting project that already brings in a kind of national node humanities and cultural heritage together in the Italian context. So I will leave it at that. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Sally. And we blame the system for the wrong timing. Thank you for explaining the crucial importance of data. I mean, of course, all research these days are extremely data intensive, but in particular for explaining also the link to the data spaces, the cultural heritage data space, and the link to various collaborative clouds. But of course, all of that is not all of digital services and resources that are needed for research infrastructures. you need connectivity, you need the computing as well, and other kinds of digital tools. So to cover part of that, I would like to welcome Catherine to give your presentation, please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here to be representing one of the European e-infrastructures. So I'd like to actually start with an analogy, because we often talk about the fact that e-infrastructures are invisible. And then that's very difficult to explain unless you put yourself into the environment of your kitchen. And you have a cookbook. And you read the recipe, and you want to start cooking the recipe. You put in the ingredients. You never think that you need electricity. You never think that you need gas. You never think that you need life, that you need pots and pans and spoons and everything to cook. That is the underlying infrastructure that e-infrastructures such as GÉANT provide. Not necessarily pots and pans, but others. So let's start. GÉANT is a membership organization. We are a bottom-up organization. We were created in the early 1990s as a result of European national research and education networks springing out of the invention of the internet, the physics environment. We had the fathers and mothers of the internet as our funding fathers. And over the years, since 1993, this community has come together and we have grown. The model of national research and education networks interconnecting every single institution in the country, building that together into a European backbone and then on a larger scale into a global backbone, that's been absolutely stable and it's been growing since the early 1990s to the point that today in Europe we connect 50 million users. And I would vouch that we probably connect all of you here in the room. And you may not even know that. So how does this network look today? This is the 2024 view of our network. We have now 26,074 kilometers of dark fiber lit across Europe and spectrum, all dedicated terrestrial cable capacity for your high-capacity networking needs. Because we recognize the fact that science needs specific bandwidth, and it cannot be just provided by your off-the-road commercial provider. So this is an integrated network that is a recent investment from the European Commission. We're very thankful. We received 50 million euros, and over the last 2 years, we completely upgraded this network into what it is today, and it is today terabit ready. So we're also ready for our friends from the Euro-HPC. But as you've all been talking this morning, science is not European. Science is not national, it's not institutional, it's global. So since the beginnings of the early 2000s, we've actually been starting to build similar national research and education network environments in other continents of the world. We've been exporting this European model and we've been adapting that into the needs of other countries. To the point that when I started in GÉANT, it was in 1997, a long time ago, we interconnected at the time the networks in the US and in Japan. Those were probably the ones that existed. And today we connect 120 countries worldwide, again, to fulfill your needs. How did we do this? We had a long collaboration with DG 8Co, DG DevCo, today it's called DG IMPA, and that really resulted in the building of structures in other continents. And in the last 5 years, along with this need for European digital autonomy, we've actually, together with DG Growth, DG EAC, invested into submarine cable systems, where GÉANT as anchor tenant was part of a bigger submarine deal, and it resulted in the Bella cable system, for example, where we have a specific capacity now dedicated to research and education network, directly a submarine cable system that didn't exist before between Latin America and Europe, and we're doing a similar sort of things. Here in 2023, you see the Medusa cable system, which will strengthen our capacity in the Mediterranean, where, again, as you've seen on this wonderful map, we still don't have submarine or lit fiber capacity. It's still leased links. How does this look? This is the example in Africa. I've been doing a lot of this work myself. You can see that East Africa is a little bit further advanced here than West Africa, but bit by bit, research and education networks are also being established in the African continent. And this is really important because none of us knows where the next super scientist sits. None of us knows where the next data set is. We need to make sure that globally every single scientist is connected to our networks, and in that way they have the same chance of collaborating in your research infrastructures as anybody in Europe, in the US, or in Japan. I think it is very important to extend our work into the global south. So this is the global connectivity that we offer you today. And I was looking at all your maps during the last couple of days, and I think we cover all the countries that you are interested in. And this capacity is fully integrated. It is not fragmented. I think this is the important bit. If you need capacity between Guatemala and Bangladesh, we're here. We can provide this for you. We don't need to go to 20 different operators in between. We have it all in hand. We are a community of about 4,500 people in research and education networks worldwide. We work together. We can deliver you the capacity that you need for your needs into your institution, from institution to institution, and this on a global scale. But of course, that's not everything. One of the things that we're really known for is EduRoam. EduRoam is a federated system. It's a Wi-Fi network. I would say it's probably the biggest Wi-Fi network worldwide. Last year, we had an incredible 7.5 billion authentications on EduRoam. And the reason for that is that you can use it everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's open your laptop and you are online. Students are using it, academics are using it. And again, it is built on a federated model between NRENs in the world collaborating together, doing the joint investment, doing the investment on the local level, on the regional level, on the global level. Again, we receive some support from the European Union here, of course. In a similar way, we look at trust and identity services. And here our big champion is, of course, EduGain. EduGain is the underlying federated structure for all of your trust and identity needs. And again, this is a global infrastructure to the point that a scientist that travels in the world has also access via the home institution authorization to other services available in other institutions. And of course, trust and identity infrastructures, as you all know, they have developed in needs. In the beginning, this was national, federated activities. But then, of course, you know, nobody works in a national environment. As you've been all saying, Jens was saying earlier, it's all distributed. So we need to make sure that you actually have a distributed trust and identity environment. And we've been working with you over the years, and you can see this on a little bit of a better map, to really have trust and identity infrastructures tailor-made available for you for the research infrastructure needs, for the needs of the HPCs, and also for the needs of the student mobility. And here I would like to also point out that we are very active in the EIDAS activity around the EUDI, around the wallet. And I would like to make the point that as the one not-for-profit in this environment, we really need the feet under the table. We cannot leave this wallet only to the commercial environment. And last not least, I wanted to point out that, of course, we're also looking at cloud arrangements. GÉANT is, and the NRENs are, uniquely placed to run large cloud procurements. We are a procurement organization, otherwise we wouldn't be able to build these networks globally if we didn't have very professional procurement in-house. We also procure the largest scale cloud procurements in Europe, and we make that available again on a national scale via the NREN to everybody. At this point in time, our cloud procurement is picked up in 28 European countries. We are being used by 900 research and education networks. But of course, as ever, we punch above our weight. So we have just now started what we call the OCA 2024 procurement of clouds. We are going into 39 countries. This is going to be a huge cloud procurement activity. But we see the benefit because it takes this procurement exercise away from individual institutions. We can buy wholesale, we can get much better pricing, and we can also insist on European security laws, on European GDPR, on ensuring that the data that we provide is actually staying in a cloud environment in Europe. And with that, And going back to Sally, because you said it about the Dutch talking about the spider, I just would like to remind everybody that we are a community. And the African saying is actually, when the spiders work together, they can catch a lion. So let's just make sure that that's what we do. Thank you.
Many, many thanks, Catherine. I will remember the last saying. It can be used in many contexts, so thank you so much. As I said, I had prepared 2 questions for the panel. We're running a bit short of time, so I'll combine the 2 questions in one and ask each of you for your reactions. So, as I said, the first one, because we're in a session of strengthening, consolidating the research infrastructure landscape. So how can we best streamline this landscape? And at the same time, how do we best prioritize the research infrastructure facilities and services that are needed for cutting-edge research, but further on, also for innovation, for deep tech developments, and impacts on competitiveness. And of course, this requires money. Are there any funding models that we should be inspired from? Funding models that have worked in one domain or in one country? How can these also then be either duplicated or scaled up across the European level? Now for that, I saw yesterday that there was a full male panel. So I would like to have now a full female panel, and thank again Sally and Jens for your interventions, and invite Gelsomina and Jelena back on stage to respond to these 2 questions that, of course, are difficult to answer, but I would like for you to give it a go, starting with Antje, please.
So I try to wrap up my thoughts about around 3 questions all at once. Streamlining and consolidation, maybe I take this together. I think we have now, as I said before, invested into the research infrastructure ecosystem during the past 2 decades. And we have been now up and running on average for 5 years. So to now make an assessment which infrastructures are to continue and which infrastructures are to go, it's not the time point to do this. And it's also very difficult on the results that we have received. But I would like to invite that the research infrastructures are being more listened to, that their actual impact is being more onboarded in the policy making, that the utilization of the research infrastructures is taken into account, and also the independent evaluation that we have up and running at the individual research infrastructures. The member states are closely looking at this. So I do trust our general assemblies or boards or whatever they are called that are running the infrastructures to make the right assumptions, to understand the added value that each of us brings to the table. But in order to even better understand us, invite us please to the actual policy making. And I do not mean when we are discussing infrastructure investments, decisions in the science policy arena, but far beyond. That we are being invited by the ministries for environment, ministries for health, ministries for transport, data security and such, because we can offer so much information. And I think then the member states will understand how much value they have created with the European research infrastructure entities that are coordinating the national efforts. So that would be my main message there. And when it comes to the funding, co-funding models is probably something that we should really look at, that the national investments and the European efforts are working closely together here also in the future. The infrastructure have been bringing much more to the table than each of us thought. Even the infrastructures didn't have many of the activities that we are now offering on their radar in the business plan. But we do provide this now. And I think this is something where the Commission would probably be one of the easier funders in the early days to help us with upskilling training, upskilling internationalization, upscaling cooperation, also giving us resources to have the communication expertise to be there at the policymakers' table. But then, of course, the member states have to also understand that our business plans have been evolving. And then, of course, that would require also an updating of the budget there. And this in a close dialogue between the different funders.
Thank you very much, Antje. Yes, some of the messages we also heard, difficult to streamline and how to prioritize. Co-financing is one of the instruments we already have at hand. We don't use it that much, but indeed, and also looking at the different phases of where support is needed for the developments of research infrastructures. I pass the microphone to Gelsomina.
Thanks, Michael. Actually, Antje already mentioned a lot of things that I wanted to say. That is good, because it means that even if we did not talk really, we are on the same line. I want to pass here, I was asked to give the S3 vision on that. And so I want to start from the work that we have already just done. So the landscape analysis, where some messages are very clear. It's clear that the research infrastructures have demonstrated so far to be crucial for basic research, but also for providing very good services in a plethora of different cases, as Antje was mentioning, and also are important for policy development and policy implementation as well. But we need both. It's important that now we are in a situation that we are always fighting with funding. So we should find a way how to sell better the research infrastructures, but we should not. So it's good to make the case of the specific services that are good for the society, for the global challenges, but we should never forget also the basic research, which is the real basis for the real innovation, because we don't know what will happen in 10 years or 15 years from now, and if we forget to support the basic research, we are lost. I mean, now I think that we need, and this is in some sense is written in the landscape analysis, but we need to explore better this in the future and also to reflect how we should better align the governance and the different funding models. Unfortunately, there is not only one single funding chain, and will never exist. And on one side, we are asking the research infrastructures to continue to provide what they should do as a primary mission, something that they thought already 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But then we are also asking them to develop new services, because we need to be at the forefront, we need to be updated, we want to have more things. So in this sense, we can have, everybody is always talking about the synergy of funds, at European funds, national funds, and this is important, of course, but we should do a bit more, because I don't think that in the, okay, think about, if I'm too long, then shut me. I mean, if we want to have a new services, and we have seen also in the landscape analysis how much is important to put different research infrastructure, for example, also from different domains to work together, then it's good to have this kind of European funding like InfraServe. But then if research infrastructures are developing a new service in 3 years project, 4 years project, then probably it's needed a follow-up where they can really make their own the prioritization and also the implementation of those services, thinking about the sustainability of the services. So this is the first things that comes to my mind. But then it's also important to, we have seen also the importance to support more the access program and many other things. And we cannot use only the co-funding. It's a great idea. I discussed this yesterday with Mika, so he knows, and we should explore this more. But we should also make it flexible. Because if we want to use money at a national level, at the member states level, those funding are never completely aligned. Elena, before she showed the French roadmap, how much France has been inspired by ESFRI. In ESFRI, we have done a lot of work trying to align all these national roadmaps. But to try to align also all the funding, mechanism, which is not only state funding, but also institutional funding, this is quite impossible. So my suggestion is to create a more flexible system and to adapt this also in the ERICs. Think about it, because we can add member states funding on the a la carte, I would say, in some sense. I mean, we need to be flexible. But then I want to conclude saying that we also need to have, I want to take the message from Antti, more communication also to other funding agencies, probably in a coordinated way at a higher level, considering always that we have also the funding mechanism at European, international, European, national, and also regional level. So this is something that we have to keep in mind. It's not an easy task.
Thank you very much, Gesumina, and indeed also for pointing beyond the usual chain. We look at international, EU, national, regional, but also institutional. But I think the most important thing also looking at sectoral policies, and this matches with the other messages we got, and looking also into deployment programs. Catherine. Yep.
Yeah, that works. So for us, the important bit is that the recognition that as organizations, as research and education networks nationally, we have existed for the last 40 years as membership organizations, and we've delivered a service concretely for 40 years, 30 years now in the European environment. And we are a bottom-up organization, and we increasingly see ourselves in a world of top-down structures. And, you know, there's joint undertakings, there's European partnership agreements and all these sort of things. And I think it is incredibly important that the bottom-up is not forgotten in this, because we do deliver, we do stick to the policy goals, we do our best. I think we do an excellent job. It's one of the big things that the rest of the world is envious about, looking at Europe, looking at the GÉANT infrastructure, looking at our global connectivity. The rest of the world doesn't have that. So let's keep supporting that. The other element of it that I find particularly for horizontal e-infrastructures that is incredibly important is that we do avoid fragmentation. And this fragmentation comes about because there are different funding systems at the moment. And we see that in GÉANT, where I sometimes have the feeling that, you know, inside the European Commission, people have glimpses of GÉANT, of what we do. And, but there's maybe not a conjoined picture, because DG GROW and DG Digit see us as delivery of, you know, say, submarine cable systems. DG INPA sees us as the solution of regional development aid projects. DG Connect sees us as the delivery of, you know, the big connectivity in Europe, delivering Euro-HPC's connectivity. DG RTD sees us, you know, as a support to the research infrastructures. So that is a bit of an issue. And then if you see, in addition to that, that we now have the Digital Europe program, where there are horizontal activities that are just in our backyard, with quantum activities, with, you know, the wallet activities. We see that. We see in the Connecting Europe facilities, again, you know, horizontal activities in the environment. To bring all of that together as an organization that is not for profit, as an organization that doesn't have a lot of time for an enormous amount of overhead, it's incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult. So I would, you know, I would wish for a world where somebody takes the point of view that horizontal is horizontal, it's ubiquitous, it's good for Europe, let's just put it all into one envelope and deal with it, rather than, you know, saying, oh no, this needs here and this needs there, and then we try and catch up and bring it all back together, because Europe benefits because it's not fragmented. It works because it is one. And that's our competitiveness. Knowledge is our, you know, knowledge can only be built if you have infrastructures that are one. And I think that's something that we really need to remember, and that's where economic growth in the end is found. Thanks.
Many thanks, Catherine. Very important messages. The bottom-up element, absolutely essential, and be careful with defragmentation. Jelena, from a national perspective, Croatia.
Also, I would like to point out what a few speakers before me said. I would like to reiterate the synergies. Not just, we should start at FP10, so research infrastructures should have their place through the whole, that is now the second pillar, because they deliver, and maybe we should incentivize in some way the usage of research infrastructure throughout the challenge-based, themes like health and everything, because we have to keep connected and we have to have synergies. And also, I would like to say that what Catherine just said, that we must prevent division, we must synergize also with other EU programs and policies and better connect, and maybe that's a part where visibility comes into hand, and to have understanding of maybe not every ERIC here or every infrastructure that is here knows even what ERA is, and that we have a part of that is dedicated to research infrastructures that are the backbone of the ERA, and they should be the beacon that attracts the talent and keeps the talent in Europe. So I think, we shouldn't forget the positive sides. Of course, we came a long way, but we should keep working on better connection, better visibility, and better synergies all over.
Many, many thanks, Jelena, and I'll look at the Master of Ceremony for him to tell me if I have time for questions from the audience. He's shaking his head, which means no. So with that, I would like to thank the panelists and, of course, also the speakers that intervened in this session, and I'll hand back to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for these interesting contributions. We are approaching the residential part of this conference, because this afternoon there are still some visits, but the part here is almost coming to an end. And we have two speakers that will address you in this closing part. And the first one is Marc Lemaitre. He's the Director General, DG Research and Innovation at the European Commission. I don't know where he is. Is Marc Lemaitre in the room? He doesn't seem to be here. So maybe then we go to Frank Monteny, Director General Research and Space at Belspo. And I think he is here indeed. Luckily.
Well, dear participants, dear colleagues, they're all, I saw the look in your eyes again, ceremonial talks. I'll try to be brief, and it will be the last one, as it was announced. It is a pleasure for me to close this conference dedicated to research infrastructures, which is attended very numerous. It was also for me very pleasant to be able to listen to the last session. First of all, I would like to thank you, participants, because it's your, I was briefed at least, active participation yesterday. Today it was a bit more limited, the active participation, at least in the last session. But it is thanks to this active participation that these kind of conferences are a success. So thank you for that. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the various speakers and moderators who shared their vision, their experiences and their knowledge during this 1 day and a half. I'd also take the opportunity to thank our Master of Ceremony, who led you efficiently through a dense program and managed to keep you all focused. And finally, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the entire team that was responsible for the organization of this conference, and that did an enormous amount of work behind the scenes. And I don't have to tell you, since we are in the last months of the Belgian presidency, they have been involved in a lot of events. They made them successful, and they have been working very hard, so thank them all for that. With that, I would like to come back to the content of the discussions of this 1 day and a half. We have been reminded insofar as they still would be necessary, that research infrastructures are of strategic importance for the European research area. They are crucial to ensure its competitiveness, and they are a key actor to reinforce strategic autonomy and to address global challenges. We have been able to take stock of the opportunities and the challenges on how further embed them in the global and European research and innovation ecosystems. And all this being said, I like the opportunity to share with you a small personal reflection. We are here in a room full of believers, all people that believe strongly in the added value of research infrastructures, the importance, strategic importance for Europe. On the other hand, when I, in my daily life, discuss with researchers participating in distributed infrastructures, I observe that at least some of them still have difficulties to distinguish between the participation in a research infrastructure and the participation in collaborative research projects. And that's something, beside from all the strategic challenges we are confronted with and we have to work on, that's something that we should continue to do, that is raise awareness in the research community about this difference. And it's a challenge both for funding organizations as for the research infrastructures themselves. This being said, it has been also highlighted that research infrastructures act as a focal point for cross-disciplinary and international collaborations, and they are key to attract the best researchers and innovators from all over the world. Openness and sharing of data is a key element for this kind of collaborations. At the same time, the unstable, complex global situation we are currently living in, the high prices of energies which are resulting from the geopolitical instabilities, the dependencies towards critical raw materials are all elements increasing the risk of geopolitical dependencies and thus drivers for Europe to reinforce its strategic autonomy, to reduce its dependencies and increase our security, in particular in those areas considered as strategic. As open as possible and as closed as necessary remains in this context a key phrase. It's important, even essential, to find the right balance between openness, that is at the heart of research endeavor, and research security, to safeguard resources, services and data critical to the European strategic autonomy. These are, and they will remain, important topics that deserve to be addressed further within the different fora. I thank you for your intentions, and for those who will participate to the site visits this afternoon, I hope you will enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I've been informed that Marc Lemaitre, in the meantime, has returned. As said, he's Director General, DG Research and Innovation at the European Commission.
Well, a very good day, everyone. I don't know where I have returned from, but I guess I was lost. In these very august premises, I must say it was a pleasure to roam through them and eventually discover what is a room with enormous cachet, a very valuable infrastructure, I would say, and I would like to thank, not as lengthily as Frank, but I would want to thank the Belgian presidency for having organized our two-day conference on research infrastructures. And it's really, I would say, quite a privilege to be able to suggest some conclusions to the exchanges that have taken place over those 2 days. Now, I'd like to be blunt up front, but also quite upbeat. And I'd say that research infrastructures are key strategic assets for the innovation dynamics that are so crucial for the future of Europe. Or as stated by Mr. Letter in his recent report, the empowerment of research infrastructures is a key pillar of the fifth freedom that he suggested to define, and a key driver for a more innovative, inclusive, and competitive European research area. We can, I believe, say with some sense of achievement that we have come a long way on cooperation in research infrastructures in Europe. Since the 1950s, European intergovernmental collaboration in big science has developed strongly with significant milestones such as the establishment of CERN and the development of the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructures, you all know, ESFRI, and I would say with significant impact, the European Research Infrastructure Consortia, ERICS. At the European Commission, we are currently working on the 7th update of the ESFRI roadmap, and we have recently established the 27th and the 28th ERICS, called InfraFrontier and LOFAR. So by now we have more ERICS than we have member states, which is good. But enlargement is there to, keep us on our toes and to continue to progress. So this conference was the opportunity to present these two newcomers and to exchange with many pre-existing ERICS. So overall, we could say that the European research infrastructure landscape is growing richer, denser, more diverse, and all that is very good. But this, I would suggest, is really not a time for self-satisfaction and complacency, and some points do require our very serious attention. First, we need to ensure transnational access to research infrastructures as a way to widen scientific opportunity. It is all the more important in a union that continues to show imbalances in scientific performance. In other words, access models must ensure that there is opportunity for all, while ensuring all member countries take responsibility for their user communities and contribute to the overall resilience of the shared access model. Second, when planning new research infrastructures, we need to bear in mind not only construction costs, but also necessary upgrades and the sustainability of operations. By this, I mean that operations should not only be sustainable in a narrow financial sense, but also from the point of view of their broader environmental impact. Third, data storage and management are of strategic importance. Research infrastructures produce massive quantities of high-quality data. Their efforts in ensuring data quality are extremely valuable in a context of increased use of AI tools and will have an impact on the entire science system. Fourth, we should recall that some research infrastructures also hold great potential for industry. But companies are not always aware of the services relevant to them that research infrastructures could offer. And research infrastructures are not always well equipped to adapt their offer to industrial users. So there is room for improving societal and economic impact here without undermining the role of research infrastructures in basic research. Last but not least, let's not forget about skills. Scientific skills, engineering skills, ICT skills. How do we make sure we will have the next generation of research infrastructure designers, scientists, and managers? The EU's framework program has always paid attention to training, notably through Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, to train research infrastructure staff and users. But the skills shortage for research infrastructures, and more broadly in our economies, is growing more acute. We therefore need to prioritize this aspect in our future discussions. To conclude, together in the EU, we have set up a quite unique European method for building and sharing research infrastructures that has become a model around the world. Sustaining this model, ensuring it can adapt and evolve, in the face of new requirements and in a new political context, will demand from us further commitment and effort. And we will do our part. The European Commission is working on a proposal for an improved European research infrastructure policy, and we aim to bring to the table a renewed strategy for research infrastructures next year, to be stronger together. So long live European research infrastructures, and long live Europe. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for these final words from BELSPO and from the European Commission. In the end, conferences are there for the participants, right? It would be quite a weird endeavor if you would have a stage with people and nobody to speak to. So I would also like to give the final word to you. And we should have a Mentimeter appearing. Exactly. And just take a moment for yourself and write down what are your final words to each other, to yourself, to the Commission, to BELSPO, to whoever is present here. And just write them down here in our Mentimeter, and let's take a look at what comes out of that. And I promise after that I will let you go. The tone is set with more collaboration. More Erics. Money, of course. The usual suspects appear. There's a great landscape of research infrastructure, a plan for FP10. Congratulations to the organizers as well. Hope, important. Understanding, greater science thanks to research infrastructure, alignment, vote for a stronger EU, more alignment, include actors in the prep of infra strategy for the EC, more collaboration, less fragmentation, vision, international cooperation, sustainability, continue to build the research infrastructure landscape together. Thanks for a warm welcome, and also welcome to Lofar, Eric. Cooperation is the key, more synergies. Sally was great, well done, Sally. Rethinking possibilities. Quo vadis research infrastructure. We need to show the strength of the ERICs, continue to collaborate for the benefits of science, society, and ultimately peace, if that isn't a visionary statement. More visibility, improved model for TNA, more congratulations for the organizers. It takes a lot of work to put something like this together. Believe that only together we are better. Go vote. I think it starts tomorrow already in some countries, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot done and a huge research infrastructure landscape built, but there is still a lot to do. I hope that it says more impact and excellence, collaboration of funders, long live Europe. Don't forget basic science, key for future innovations, more visibility, well-structured meeting. I learned a lot, that's good to hear. A lot was said about the importance of international cooperation and basic science. Please keep in mind that these, and then things don't pay for themselves. That's true. Okay. Thank you so much to all the speakers, to BELSPO for organizing, to all of you for being here. And as there are some visits this afternoon, I need to give you some information on how to get there. There will be 3 visits. If you have forgotten by now to which one you signed up with, no worries, you can get that information at the welcome desk. People who want to go to, or who will go to VIB, they will leave the earliest. At 1:20, you will be leaving downstairs, and you will be back at the latest at 7:30 at Gare Centrale. So VIB, they are the first one that leave at 13:20, and you will meet downstairs, so where you entrance. Then, second group that will leave is RBINS. If you signed up for that, you will be leaving at 1:50, 1:50, outside the lunch place here. Yeah, so RBINS, you will go with Maarten. He will collect you at 10 to 2 outside the lunch place. And then, in principle, everybody who is left goes to the Von Karman, and you will meet inside the lunchroom at 13:40, 22:2. And you will be back at the latest at 6 o'clock. I've been informed there is still place in all the visits, so if you haven't signed up yet and you are interested, there is still a possibility. Just go and mention that at the welcome desk, and they will guide you further. Have a nice lunch, enjoy the visits, and I see there's still one thing to be said. Very fast, for the people which have their suitcase under the stairs, you have to collect it before Yes, important. Thanks a lot, enjoy, and see you next time.